of England hikes interest rates to 1.25%. The Bank of England has raised its interest base rate to the highest point since the start of 2009. The bank's experts set the rate at 1.25%, a rise from 1% previously and the fifth increase in a row as it tries to tame runaway inflation. Community Secretary Michael Gove warned that Britain faces tough times ahead as the UK undergoes a painful economic correction as a result of the war in Ukraine and the aftermath of the pandemic. Nomura's chief UK economist explains the move and how things could get even harder in a few months.
Good evening and welcome. Today we will unravel on the current issue of the rising of interest rate by the Bank of England. What is the relation to international finance? What are the issues and suggestions? And how does Islamic perspective perceive this issue?
Two international finance topics that relate to the issue are Chapter 4, Exchange Rate Determination, and Chapter 8, Relationship among Inflation. In Chapter 4, we will know what is the main reason for raising the interest rate and how it can affect the exchange rate. And for Chapter 8, it can be explained by interest rate and inflation has a direct relationship. When inflation is high, central banks may increase interest rate to curb spending and reduce the money supply in the economy. Higher interest rate make the borrowing most expensive, which can help slow down economic growth and decrease inflationary pressure. Next, we will pass the stage to our reporter, Ain.
Thank you, Qistina, for the insightful introduction. To digest more into the issue of exchange rate determination, we will ask Sister Yasmin about how interest rate control inflation.
Okay, yes, thank you, Ain. So, government or the central banks include the Bank of England often use interest rates to control the inflation. So, when the Bank of England raise interest rates, it can have several effects on the economy. So, if the bank raise interest rates to curb inflation, it may have the side effect of slowing down the economic growth, impacting employment and potentially leading to a reduction in consumer spending. So, a higher interest rate will also lead to the increase in borrowing costs for individual businesses and also the government. So this can discourage borrowing and spending, which may slow down the economic activity. So for consumer, higher interest rates make the borrowing more expensive. That will discourage them from taking out loans to spend on the goods and services. So we're reducing overall demand. So when people spend less, it can help to slow down the inflation as there will be less pressure on prices to rise due to the excessive demand. Similarly, when interest rates are higher, it becomes more expensive for business to borrow money for their growth or investment. So this will help to prevent the business from expanding too quickly and raise price because of increase in production costs. So we can see that the higher interest rate discourage borrowing, reduce consumer spending and moderate the credit expansion. So that is why government raise interest rates as a method to control inflation. While higher rates can help to curb inflation, they may also contribute to a slowdown in economic activity because it may lead to unemployment concern, where higher interest rate will lead to reduced economic activity and increase unemployment as business will have to cut back on the hiring or even lay off some workers. So to end my speech here, interest rate adjustment play a crucial role in the dual objective of curbing inflation and managing economic growth. So with various impact on consumer, business and financial market. The effectiveness of this measure depends on multiple factors including the current economic condition and the magnitude of the rate changes. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister, for the mindful opinion. Let's get another person, Sister Hanis, to share a little bit more about the effect on currency by changing interest rates.
Thank you, Ain. Regarding the issue of increasing interest rate by the Bank of England, for sure it may give significant influence to the movement of the currency to appreciate or depreciate through the impact to the movement as well as the international trade. This is because they are interconnected in a complex way. When the interest rate rise, the investor will trigger the most as they allocate the portfolio with the intention of obtaining high return. They pay close attention to it to capitalize on the opportunity. The greater attraction from the investor, the greater the demand for and willingness to invest in that denominated currency. There is an inflow of foreign capital. As a result, currency appreciated. And then influencing export and import competitiveness. With the increase in the interest rate, it resulting in a stronger currency, which then raised the cost of the goods. It serves expensive price to the foreign buyers, so due to that, it reduced the transaction of export. For the import transaction, it increasing as the purchasing power of the consumer increase as they capable and make them capable to buy more product. So thus, it is important for us to note how increasing interest rate in the Bank of England will affect the transaction between countries and the value of the currency. Thank you.
Thank you, sister, for your time and thought. I think it is clear interest rate will affect both the inflation and currency value. However, it is important to also acknowledge that there are other ways possible to tackle the soaring prices, which is by using quantitative easing, or known as QE. This involves the Bank of England buying government bonds from banks and other financial institutions, which injects money into the economy and can help to stimulate borrowing and spending. Other than that, the Bank of England can also directly influence prices and wages. For example, it could work with the government to set price controls or negotiate wage settlements with unions. However, we need to mind that both other ways come with pros and cons. QE can lead to higher asset prices and inflation if not carefully managed, and directly influence prices and wages is a risky approach that can lead to distortions in the economy. That is all from me. Let's go back to the main stage.
Thank you, Ain. Back to our discussion. Let's take a look in the perspective of Islamic financial system. When it comes to inflation, surely the government is responsible to stabilize the economy and overcome this inflation. Islamic economics has implemented several solutions to curb inflation, such as fiscal and monetary policies, maximizing zakat, and avoiding any kinds of riba. Thus, the question in this case is the interest rate considered as riba? Although there are some scholars argue that the interest is to protect the creditors from inflation, however, it is well stated by Islam that any form of riba is prohibited. It is best to eliminate this interest rate as it is considered as riba ad-dain. To conclude, despite the other methods that can be used to curb inflation and manage recession, central banks like the Bank of England often use interest rate as an effective tool to manage inflation and maintain stability of the economy for that country.
Audio Jungle.